Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine.
Hello everyone, and today we're going to be taking a look at Half-Life 2 in 2024. Now, 2024, of course, marks the 20th anniversary of Half-Life 2, and boy, does that make me feel old. But anyway, mortality aside, let's go and take a look at it. So Half-Life 2 released in November 16th, 2004, exclusively at the time for the PC. Of course, it was developed and published by Valve, and also marked my very first time ever going to Steam. So I've been on Steam for 20 years. That makes me feel old as well. But yeah, Half-Life 2 did launch to a great sort of fanfare. It was hyped up for a long time. Was originally meant to release the year prior, but then they decided to delay it and polish it. And also a version of the game did leak out onto the internet. Somebody guessed Gabe's password. And apparently it was really easy. It was literally Gabe was his password, apparently. Very simple to guess. So yeah, Lord Gabedon and his poor password did cause delays in this game. But anyway, let's get into it and see what made Half-Life 2 one of the best games ever made.
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine.
So Half-Life 2, of course, was released on PC. You could buy it on physical media, as we did back then. Also released on Valve's Steam. Steam had been around for a few years and was kind of originally a multiplayer platform for hosting sort of multiplayer games, and that's what it was used for things like Counter-Strike. Also did come with Counter-Strike Source as well, which was pretty cool. At the time, getting a new updated version on the then new Source engine. Can't believe Source engine is 20 years old now. It was also ported to the Xbox, the original Xbox, a year later. The original Xbox version is an interesting curiosity, worth checking out just as a curiosity. If you don't, it's amazing that it runs, but don't expect it to run good or be playable-ish. It was then released again on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 as part of the Orange Box collection, which was a collection of Half-Life 2, its two expansion follow-ups, Episode 1 and 2, as well as Team Fortress 2 and Portal at the time, which was a new game, which was included in the Orange Box collection. So which version is the best version to get? PC, obviously, is the obvious answer. The PC version, of course, just got a recent update for the 20th anniversary from Valve. They did fix some bugs, and more noticeably, they added developer commentary for the PC version, which is pretty good to see, actually. Interesting to hear how they designed certain aspects of the game and getting the developers' thoughts. Developer commentary tracks were available for Episode 1 and 2, so it was nice to see them get added to Half-Life 2 to the base game as well. They were part of the Orange Box when it released in 2007. But other than that, the Xbox version, like we said, try it as a curiosity just to see how far the original Xbox could be pushed, because Half-Life 2 was definitely one of those games, along with Doom 3, another game that turned 20 years old this year. Really pushed that original Xbox to its limit, but it's probably the worst version. So check it out as a curiosity. Next up the line in terms of bad versions is the PlayStation 3 version of the Orange Box. This was not ported by Valve, it was done by one of EA's studios, because Gabe Newell didn't like the PlayStation architecture and didn't want to work with it, so he decided to hand it off. EA was the publisher of the Orange Box, although Valve still owned the IP, so EA was like the publisher only, and I think they did only publish the console versions of the game, so it was handed off to one of EA's internal studios. It is pretty poor. The Xbox 360 version is okay, it runs okay, it ran at a reasonable 30 FPS at the time, and it was the most stable version of the game at the time. And yes, you can play this, the Orange Box, on your Xbox One or your Xbox Series consoles. Just bear in mind though that the Orange Box, along with Left 4 Dead 2, were delisted digitally, so the only way you can play it is if you owned a digital copy previously, you can still download it, or you can use the physical disc. So that rules out the Xbox Series S, unfortunately, as it doesn't have a disc drive, but you can play it in your Series X, which is good, or your Xbox One if you have a console, if you have a disc version of the console. You just pop the disc in and it will download the digital emulated version. And yeah, it runs great on that system as well. There is no official frame rate boost, but you can boost the frame rate to 60 FPS in the Xbox version or the Xbox 360 version by, you have to export your save, decrypt the save file, and then edit the INI file, and then you can pop it in, and it will run at 60 FPS on the Xbox Series X at least. But is it really worth going through that hassle when Half-Life 2 will just run on any PC these days? And of course, being a Valve game, it is Steam Deck verified. It's the closest we've got to a first-party game on the Steam Deck, so of course it's going to have Steam Deck verified. Runs really well. That's the surprising thing about Half-Life 2. If you had told me 20 years ago you'd be running this on a handheld at 800p and 90 FPS if you've got the OLED model of the Steam Deck, yeah, I would have said no, chat. No, I would have wondered what drugs you were taking, to be honest with you, because I couldn't get that resolution and that frame rate on my PC at the time. I was running at 1024 by 768 and getting about 40 FPS around, somewhere around that point. That's what prompted me to build my very first PC, was the performance of Half-Life 2. But it's amazing to think that now this just runs on a handheld now. Amazing, really. But yeah, Half-Life 2 PC version, check it out. The Steam Deck also does take advantage of the buttons at the back of the Steam Deck. You've got a dedicated button for the gravity gun, and you can order your squad around. There's also like a crouch button as well, so it does take advantage of them. If you're having issues with the Steam Deck version, remember the gyro was enabled by default when you boot it up, so turn off gyro controls if you're having issues aiming, because if you move your Steam Deck slightly, it will start aiming, it'll start moving the reticule around for you. So disable that it's enabled by default, don't know why, but there's a tip for you anyway.
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine.
I should really rephrase this section of does it still hold up today to do modern games hold up to Half-Life 2? And the answer is simply no, they don't, because Half-Life 2 was one of the best games ever made, and one of the reasons for that was just the level of interactivity that you can have with the world. Half-Life 2 was made with physics at its core, so yeah, if things would behave and look as though they would, if you hit a bit of wood with your crowbar, for example, it would break realistically. This was used to all sorts of effects and used for puzzles as well, and it was used very quite good. There was great ways. Half-Life 2 taught the player how to do it very well. I love the opening few levels where you're just wandering about City 17 at the train station, and of course you can just pick up nearly any object and throw them at the guards. There's even the RPG bit that Valve said where the guard tells you to pick up the can, and you can pick up the can and you can put it in the trash can, or you could throw the can back at the guard, and of course the guard will react to that. And that was amazing, and that's what's missing from modern games. It doesn't matter, you know, the visuals, the ray tracing, make your world believable, and that's what Half-Life 2 did. Its world was believable, and it was clearly created by a team that really cared about the game and really wanted to deliver the best possible game that they could, and it was full of little attention to detail. I was listening to the developer commentary in Highway 17 about how the buggy physics worked and how they agonized over how to get the buggy to work, and they even had, if you leave the buggy and go out of sight, there's a seagull that lands on the buggy and poops on the buggy, and when you return to the buggy you can see the little poo decals on the buggy and the seagull will fly away. Man, it's attention to detail like that I miss from that era of games. 2004 really was a landmark year for video games. One of the best years we've ever had. Of course, we had Half-Life 2, Doom 3 I mentioned earlier. So many other great games came out in 2004, but Half-Life 2, it really was a benchmark, and the highlight of Half-Life 2 is the gravity gun. That really highlights the physics. You know, you just pick up you can pick up heavy objects and you can throw them. It's a very simple device. It has like 2 buttons. But the way you're introduced to that is excellent. And then the next level after that in Ravenholm is a really scary place to go. You get the poisoned head crabs, and they will freak you out. They reduce you to 1 health, the poisoned head crabs. You do the HEV suit will administer the antitoxin and heal you, but then you're vulnerable to other enemies. And just seeing the zombie that's got all the poison head crabs on the back throw them at you still creeps me out to this day. But that's an awesome playground for the gravity gun there, and that's what they did. They introduced mechanics and then just gave you a playground in which to go play with them. You start out with the tutorial where you're playing sort of catch with the dog. You're just throwing things and dog is sort of throwing them back to you. And then you go to Ravenholm, and that's where the game really picks up in Ravenholm. It's got a great atmosphere, Ravenholm. You also get to meet Father Gregory, who's awesome. One of the best characters in the game. You don't meet a huge amount of characters. You do get Alex Vance, who is Gordon's main love interest, I guess. But Alex is awesome. You get to spend more time with Alex in episode 1 than episode 2. Episode 1 in particular is pretty slow going. I'm not a big fan of episode 1, but I think the only criticism I will have about Half-Life 2 is the second half of the game just isn't as good. I think after you do Highway 17, you go to sand traps, which is alright. You have to use the gravity gun to avoid going on the sand so that the antlions won't attack you. So you have to pick up objects and place them down and sort of make your own sort of bridge across the sand, which is pretty cool. Then you go to Nova Prospect, where you get the antlion pheromone, where you get your little army of antlions that you can throw. You throw the pheromone at the enemies and the antlions will go attack them for you, which is pretty cool. So the game always introduces new mechanics. Where it sort of falls down for me is Anti-Citizen 1, where you're kind of commanding a squad of civilians. And the civilian AI, it's not the best. It was good at the time. It was considered quite good at the time, but it's not the best. They tend to just walk in front of you a lot of times and get killed a lot as well. And you can't shoot them as well. So when you're shooting, if you're shooting at a combine soldier and a civilian, they tend to just wander in front of you a lot of times, and it just kind of interrupts the flow. I don't know if it's just you're in narrow corridors as well, which doesn't really suit the game as a squad-based shooter. So I was never the biggest fan after that. The last few levels are pretty interesting, but the gravity gun gets all messed up. And you can use it to pull enemies in now, and it kills them all with 1 hit. It'll fry every weapon that they're carrying, so you can't pick up their weapons. You get the blue gravity gun, as I call it. But yeah, the second half really isn't as good as the first half of Half-Life 2. I really liked Water Hazard as a great level as well, where you're on the sort of hovercraft thingy and you're going through getting chased by the combine. And then you've got to run away from the chopper as well. And then, of course, you go in and you get the gun upgrade, which is awesome. And then you can take on the chopper. You fight that at the end of the boss. And that's right before you go to Ravenholm, before you get the gravity gun. But yeah, I feel like the second half just isn't as good. Episode 1, the start of it, I'm not a big fan of as well. It does pick up more. Episode 2 was better, but we're not covering episode 1 and 2 in this video. We'll maybe look at them for the 20th anniversary of them. But yeah, Half-Life 2 is still, for me, one of the best games ever made. And I definitely think you should check it out. It was free, I should point out. For the 20th anniversary, they did give it away for free, so credit to Valve for doing that. They have put updates in over the years. Of course, there's a great modding community that started up off the back of Half-Life 2, and some great games started up off the back of that. Left 4 Dead, of course, started as a Half-Life mod, or a Half-Life 2 mod, should we say. But yes, we've seen some great mods. Gary's mod, of course, was one of the most famous mods off the back of that. It was just kind of a sandbox using the source engine to create some crazy, weird things that you could create in Gary's mod. I used to do that when it was free back in the day. I don't know where it is now. I don't know if it's still available. But anyway, so yeah, Half-Life 2, definitely one you should check out. It goes on sale regularly if you want to check it out. The PS3 version, again, is not worth it. The Xbox 360 probably is a decent shout if you can get the physical copy and you want to play it on console. It would have been nice to have seen for the 20th anniversary. I'm glad they updated it from the PC and they added developer commentary. It would have been nice to have seen them port the orange box to modern consoles. That would have been a nice touch. Nintendo Switch, Xbox. Nintendo Switch has Portal on the Nintendo Switch. I don't know why they haven't given us Half-Life 2. PlayStation 5 as well. It would have been nice to have seen them port it to all modern consoles, because Half-Life 2 is a great game, and it is a game that you should play. It's one of those gaming bucket list things that you should always have in terms of must-play games. Half-Life 2 is one definitely for the ages, just for its interactivity. That's what I miss about modern games. It's nice that modern games look nice, but... And speaking of modern games that look nice, Half-Life 2 RTX is the next thing that's coming soon, so we're going to have a path-traced version of Half-Life 2. Looking forward to that, running at 10 FPS. That should be fun. Be weird seeing Half-Life 2, of course, with pushing a modern graphics card. That'll be weird. Because that's what prompted me, of course, to get into PC gaming and build my own PC, was how it ran on my original PC. And I'll put a screenshot, if I can find it, of the specs of that original PC. I think this is a Knights of the Old Republic 2 screenshot. That's all I have left of that original PC that I built 20 years ago, and that's what got me into PC gaming. Got me on Steam as well, and I've never looked back really since then. I've been on Steam for 20 years now. Unbelievable. I was 18 at the time when Half-Life 2 came out. Now I'm 38, so now I feel old now, but, you know, at least Half-Life 2 is in better nick than I am, I suppose. But anyway, that is all for this video, so thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again soon, and goodbye.